Sometimes history don't change in big events. It don't happen when everyone's looking. It don't happen with big crowds and bright lights. No. Sometimes the moments that shake everything happen in silence, in the dark hours when nobody thinks anything important is going down. Sometimes the moves that change everything happen late at night behind closed doors when a leader picks up a phone and shifts the whole game. That's what happened when Modi made that call. One late night conversation that rewrote the world order forever. See, most folks think history gets shaped in the daytime. They think it's all about big meetings, fancy speeches, and photo opportunities. But let me break this down for you. True power is when you don't need the stage, when you don't need the microphones, when you don't need the crowd cheering. True power is when you move with such certainty that the world only figures out what happened days later, and by then everything's already changed. That's exactly what India demonstrated that night. For decades, the global system was controlled by a small group of nations who appointed themselves the judges of the world. They gathered at their exclusive tables, created their boundaries, established their regulations, and instructed everyone else on how the game should be played. And for way too long, countries like India were supposed to just agree, stay silent, and take orders. But when Modi picked up that phone in the middle of the night, he wasn't requesting permission. He wasn't looking for approval. He was changing the entire playbook. That conversation wasn't casual chat. It was about transforming everything. He was declaring India ain't going to be sitting in the shadows anymore. India ain't going to wait while others make the decisions. Starting right now, we're calling the shots. And let me tell you, when you've got more than 1 billion people standing with you, when you've got a nation with thousands of years of history, culture, strength, and determination burning in its soul, you don't need anyone's permission to step up. You just step up. Now, what makes this moment so significant ain't just that a phone call happened, it's what that call represented. That was a declaration of independence, a statement of defiance, a claim to destiny. It told the world, this India ain't the same India you remember. This ain't the land you once controlled. This ain't the country you used to push around. This is the modern India, an India that creates its own technology, sends up its own satellites, builds its own weapons, controls its own economy, and writes its own playbook. And believe me, the world felt that message loud and clear. Let me set this scene for you. Somewhere in Washington, emergency lights started flashing. In Beijing, officials started frowning. In London, people got worried. In Moscow, they started taking notes because they all understood this wasn't just another diplomatic conversation. This was India announcing, we're here now, not in 5 years, not by 2030, right this minute. See, what rattled the establishment wasn't just the choice India made, it was the speed, the boldness, the nerve. Because here's the reality. Most nations walk carefully around the big powers. They wait for permission. They ask a dozen advisors. They worry about the consequences. But India that night said, we ain't worried about no consequences. We've been through tougher times. We've survived being colonized, invaded, exploited, sanctioned, and we still rose up. So if the world wants to challenge us now, we're ready for that fight. That's what made that call historic. But let me tell you something deeper. What makes India so threatening to the old guard is that it ain't trying to copy them. India ain't saying we want to become the next America or the next China. No, India is saying we are India, and that's powerful enough. That's the game changer. That's why the establishment trembled. Because when you stand proud in your own skin, when you ain't trying to be a knockoff of somebody else, you become unstoppable. That late night call wasn't just political, it was spiritual. It carried the energy of every farmer who gets up before dawn, every soldier protecting the borders, every scientist in the labs, every kid studying by lamplight, every mother who gives up everything so her children can climb higher. It wasn't one man making a phone call. It was 1.4 billion hearts speaking through him. That's why it shook the world. And listen, when a nation starts believing in itself that powerfully, nothing can hold it back. You can try to punish them. You can try to shut them out. You can try to silence their voice. But they'll just find new ways forward because hunger always defeats comfort. Determination always beats privilege. And India got that hunger built into its foundation. Now, some people are nervous, let's be honest. They won't admit it publicly, but they're concerned because for generations, the world system worked like this. The Western powers made the calls and everybody else just responded. But now, India's making moves that others have to respond to. That's a completely different game. And when the rules change, the ones who've been winning the longest always get the most uncomfortable. Let me explain it like this. Picture a dinner table where the same people have been eating the best food for years. They're sitting at the head, cutting the meat, serving the portions, deciding who gets leftovers. And India was always standing off to the side, waiting for whatever was left. But now India just walked over, pulled up a chair, sat down and said, "Excuse me, we eating too." And not just that, India brought its own meal to share. That completely changed the whole dinner party. The late night call proved India doesn't chase the world. It makes the world chase India. For too many years, the story was told in a way that made India look like it was always following, a nation with promise but always trying to catch up, always waiting in line behind the so-called superpowers. The West used to make the rules, China showed its economic strength, and Russia played its military games, while India was expected to just adapt and adjust. But that night, with that single conversation, India destroyed the myth that it needed to fit into somebody else's world system. India wasn't waiting for acceptance. It wasn't waiting for an invitation. It was demonstrating that the world needs to adjust to its presence, its choices, its vision. That's when everyone realized the global script had been rewritten. You got to understand, following the world is safe. Following the world is predictable. Following the world is what countries without backbone do because they think if they just copy the powerful ones, they'll get powerful too. But India's late night call was different. It said loud and clear that India wasn't interested in copying anyone. India had its own beat, its own game plan, its own strategy, and it wasn't about to let anyone else write the rules for how it should move. The real mark of leadership is when you stop walking behind others and start making your own trail. That's what India did, and the world noticed, because when India moves now, the ripples spread everywhere. When it makes a call in the middle of the night, it ain't just a conversation between two countries, it's a global earthquake. That call represented something much bigger than diplomacy. It was the announcement that India's days as a quiet, obedient power were finished. This is an India that's not going to wait for approval from others. It's an India that acts first and then makes the rest of the world figure out how to respond. And trust me, when the rest of the world is responding to you, that's when you know you're leading the pack. Think about it. For generations, the world's power centers, Washington, London, Paris, Beijing, have been comfortable with the idea that they make the moves and the rest of the planet adjusts accordingly. But after that call, India turned that whole system upside down. Suddenly, these same power centers were calling emergency meetings, working late into the night, studying what India just did, trying to figure out how to position themselves in response to it. That is the signature of real power. Not how loud you talk, but how fast others change their tune when you speak. India has entered that league. See, when you follow the world, you're always playing defense. You're reacting to sanctions, to policies, to military moves, to trade disputes. But when you make the world follow you, you switch from defense to offense. You set the schedule. You control the conversation. You decide when to cooperate and when to stand firm. And what makes India so special is that its power doesn't just come from military strength or economic numbers. It comes from its ability to move with both patience and precision. That late night call wasn't reckless, it was strategic. It was daring, but it was smart. That's why it hit so hard. Now, here's the part that scared the establishment the most. India didn't just make the call and then back down. No hesitation, no second guessing, no apologies. That kind of certainty is rare in today's world, where leaders often make bold statements but crumble under pressure. India showed that it doesn't need the world to approve of its decisions. It makes its moves based on what's right for its people, its future, and its dreams. And when you stand that strong, others have no choice but to adjust, because deep down, every nation respects conviction, even if they don't like the decision itself. The call proved something else too. India is not scared of standing alone. See, countries that fear isolation, countries that fear losing friends, they play it safe, they compromise, they bend over backwards. But India has been through centuries of struggle, centuries of standing tall by itself, centuries of learning how to succeed under pressure. That toughness is unmatched. The call told the world, even if you all disagree, even if you all push back, we will keep moving forward, and eventually you will follow because the force we carry cannot be stopped. That kind of courage makes others respect you even when they want to fight you. It also revealed the difference between power built on entitlement and power built on hunger. Many nations that once controlled the world order had gotten comfortable, entitled, assuming their dominance would never end. But comfort creates laziness, and laziness creates weakness. India, on the other hand, has been climbing, pushing, struggling, building piece by piece, fighting for every step of progress. Hunger is what drives a nation to rise faster, hit harder, and move bolder. That late-night call carried that hunger. It was a reminder that while some countries were resting on past victories, India was creating new ones. Another powerful truth about that call: it wasn't just about one leader. The world may have heard one voice on the phone, but in reality, it was the voice of 1.4 billion people. Every word carried the weight of farmers in the fields, engineers in the cities, soldiers at the borders, children in schools, families in villages and towns, all of them. That call wasn't personal ambition.